Yo, guys, I hope you're well. So, guys, it gets to something when you have people from all walks of life calling out the Prime Minister for basically picking the pensioners' pockets over winter fuel. So, guys, we're going to check out. This was done yesterday on Sky TV, Sky News, and it features Carol Vorderman talking about her disappointment with Sir Keir Starmer and with how he wanted to be picking the pensioners' pocket over winter fuel. Guys,
I'm
check
quite
it out.
intrigued because the last few years you've been known, I think it's fair to say, for your, I guess, tirades against the Conservative government.
Yes.
Your kind of anger, your sort of frustration
Absolute
came
anger.
through. So what are you going to do now there's a Labour government?
Well, I've already started.
So I didn't know this. I don't know much about Carol Vorderman. I think the last time I heard about Carol Vorderman, I was a little kid and she was doing countdown. She's a numbers person, isn't she? She's a mathematician, numbers person. I think she's one of the top whatever in numbers and numeracy, etc., etc. But I know that she's now a figure in the public eye, but I'm not too sure exactly what she does. So I'm coming into this, people, with no preconceptions about Carol Vorderman, and just a little bit of a heads up, people, as well. So I've been doing my channel for quite a while now, but as I said to a lot of people for many years of doing my YouTube channel, I wasn't listening to the news. I stopped listening to the news. I stopped listening to music, all sorts of things for years and years and years. Because I said to people, the more you listen to the news, the more it gets you down, and it's designed in a way to do that. The more you listen to it, the more angry you get, and the more depressed you get, etc., etc. But in the last few weeks, I have started listening to the news again because I've seen a few things that have upset me. So I'm watching the news. I'm not watching the news just to watch the news, but I'm watching the news with a critical eye, people. So I'm not watching the news to find out what's going on here, there, and everywhere, because basically I know how they present the news and know what the news is here to do to us. But I'm here to critique the news and to just to say what are they actually trying to tell us, and what are they really trying to tell us, if you know what I'm trying to say. So if you read between the lines, that's when you know what the news is about. So we're looking at this now with Carol Vorderman, and apparently I didn't know this. I'm not certain if she's been a fan of Labour, but she was a very outspoken critic of the Conservative Party. But now, and I think Carol Vorderman, you are not alone. I didn't really have too many thoughts about the Labour Party, Conservatives, this, that, and everything else. I had my own ideas, but it's only when I've seen what's happened over the last couple of months that I've started to start speaking out, people. But Carol Vorderman now is saying, or I'm getting this viewpoint from this newscaster reporter, that Carol Vorderman was very anti-conservative. But now, let's hear what she says about the Labour Party.
About the Winter Fuel Allowance, the scrapping of the Winter Fuel payments, which have, been passed today. I don't understand why they've done it. I do understand why you wouldn't pay the wealthy pensioners, but to go from, I'll be one of those in 2 years' time.
Oh my goodness. Actually, that does make sense. If Carol Vorderman has been around as long as I think she has, so she's saying she'd be a pensioner in a couple of years' time. Really? Oh my goodness.
So I wouldn't need the Winter Fuel Allowance payment. But to go from 12 million to less than 2 million pensioners receiving it is just way too low. And I'm shocked by it because they could raise that money in so many other ways.
So she just said that with this winter fuel allowance, with the government rescinding the winter fuel allowance, they will knock 10 million pensioners off of the winter payments. That is huge. It's a huge figure. It's a huge amount of pensioners to knock off and to leave to fend for their own. Yes, we know there are some millionaire pensioners, as they want to call it, this, that, and everything else. But there's a lot of people who are floating very close to that line where if they sink below, then they're hitting that poverty level, people. So those winter fuel payments are really there, which keeps their heads above water. It keeps them from sinking. So, and the other thing about this as well, guys, is from Sunday when I saw the Laura Kunsberg report, well, it wasn't report, interview with Keir Starmer. Laura Kuenssberg pulled up Keir Starmer because he said that when he and Rachel Reeves walked into and started to interrogate the fiscal budget, etc., there was a 22 billion black hole. But what Laura Kuenssberg said was, hey, hang on a minute, hold on a second. There is a black hole, but you chose to apportion 9 billion of that 22 billion to pay for public sector, to pay for the train workers, train drivers. And then there was an example, I don't know if this is true or false, I'm just going to quote what I've heard. Excuse me, I just bashing the place. I'm just going to quote what I've heard. So the example was there were train drivers who were earning £65,000 a year. With this new increase in terms, they're now going to get an extra £10,000 on top of that £65,000 a year. So if you look at that and you say you're taking the winter fuel payments away from the pensioners, I don't know how you can equate one to the other and how you can say, okay, let's make the pensioners really suffer this winter and let's make people who are on £65,000, which isn't bad, it isn't bad at all, people, let's make them a whole lot more comfy with an extra £10,000. So I don't know, people. It's like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. It doesn't equate, people, not in my book anyway.
Including, for instance, private equity managers. All of this is kind of in the book, really.
Hang on, I'm just going to wheel this back, people. So I think Carol Vorderman is saying that there are alternatives.
Including, for instance, private equity managers. All of this is kind of in the book, really. So, for instance, a few years ago, in one tax year, 255 private equity managers earned, very much in inverted commas, £2.7 billion between them. And they didn't pay 45% tax, as every employee who's earning a decent amount of money would pay. They have a special arrangement with HMRC at 28%. Now that could have...
Wow, 28%. Wow.
That could instantly generate another 600-700 million.
So what...
Ooh. Remember, Carol Vorderman is a numbers person, so I'm certain she's done her homework and she's worked that out. So we're talking maybe going to private equity, etc. We could have maybe sorted out some of that black hole in other areas, which wouldn't have been so hurtful and harmful to such a huge amount. 10 million people. That's incredible.
What do you think Keir Starmer should do now? Right, we've seen.
Well,
yes,
he should apologise.
You think he should apologise?
I think I absolutely do, because I was involved, as you may or may not know, and again, it's in the diary and so on, in a tactical voting website. We know it had an influence.
So Carol Vorderman has said a couple of things. Keir Starmer should get down on his knees. Didn't he get down on his knees to Black Lives Matter? Didn't he get down on his knees and really? Well, you need to get down on your knees and say your apologies to the pensioners right now. Get down on your knees and apologise. And then Carol Vorderman has said something which, and the guy's name escapes me, he was talking about tactical voting as well. You need to vote for what you most definitely do not want. I think what he was trying to say on that is you need to vote for the person or the parties which is going to give you the closest to what you want. So I always call it verbs, not words. Actions over words. Actions over words. Verbs, not words. So we're talking like tactical voting now, and we need to tactically vote to get this Labour Party out of here as soon as possible.
And millions of people loaned their vote. I'm not saying every single postcode led to a vote, but millions loaned their vote, and they have stated so, to Labour, in the belief that finally this gross inequality which has grown over the last 14 years would be diminished somewhat. So, and then this is the first thing.
Because it obviously wasn't in the manifesto. Do you feel that the Labour government have effectively, I guess, duped some people there?
Yeah, we've been duped.
I do, yes, I do. I really do. And I'm shocked because it's such, even extracting the fact that many pensioners will be suffering because of it. Obviously, those on pension credit will receive it, but there are almost 900,000 who are eligible for pension credit, but who haven't applied, so they're not in that scenario. so, which is another subject. But it is unbelievable that this new Labour government, the first thing they do is that. It's not what I don't believe what they were voted in to do. I just, it's quite astonishing, really.
Wow. I concur 100% with Carol Vorderman. So, a couple of things she was saying. So, a lot of the votes that Labour got to get them into Parliament this term have actually been out on loan. So it's almost as if we say, well, we'll give you a chance because the Tories have been so bad. We will see if you guys can be any better. So we're literally loaning you our vote this time. So you need to prove to us that all the words you said, all those big words you said are true. And then Carol Vorderman says the first thing you do is you go back and you stab the pensioners in the back, and you turn them around and you stab them in the front as well. Really? 10 million pensioners you've stabbed in the back, and you've left them high and dry. You've left them to have the dilemma of eating or heating this winter, which is disgusting. Disgusting. And I think a lot of the Labour did this because they thought that pensioners have no clout, but they don't understand that the pensioners will unite and they will never forget and they will never forgive either. And that is so true. And the other thing about this as well, people, is that Labour, why have they decided to do this now? There were other alternatives. They didn't have to rush this decision. It should have been something that should have been thought about, agonised over, and actually just to look at what other alternatives are there. It's not a good look, people. They've started really, really badly. Really, really badly. And in October, when we get the October budget, it's going to get a lot worse. I know there's going to be things like land with people's council tax, land registry, land ownership, this, that, and everything else. When I say like land ownership, I'm talking about your homeowners, etc. as well. There's going to be a lot of pain around there. There's going to be a lot of pain around in a lot of areas. So I'm just going to keep my powder dry until we hear what's going to happen in the budget. But I don't think it's going to be any easier. I think it's going to get worse. And the worst thing about that is I actually think that Keir Starmer's actually very happy about what he's doing. There's a lot that's going to come out of this. But to go back to Carol Vorderman, so she has said what a lot of people agree with, and I agree with this as well. So Labour have said many times Keir Starmer, and Keir Starmer always says, I'm not going to take any lectures from you. Those are his favourite words. People listen to Keir Starmer. He says this all the time. I'm not going to take a lecture from you. I'm not going to take any lectures from you. But to be honest with you, he needs to be taking lectures from us, because what Keir Starmer has said is that they got a huge mandate to run the country. No, that's not true. Carol Vorderman was right. A lot of people have lent their vote to the Labour Party to say, look, the Conservatives were so bad and they mismanaged the country in such a bad way, they let it go to rack and ruin. But Labour now are doing something else. They're literally piecing up the country and targeting certain demographics themselves and absolutely stabbing us in the back and stabbing us in the front. Guys, I don't even know what more to say on this. I'm just disgusted in what's happened. And I just hope that when this October budget comes, is it the 30th of October, something like that? When it comes, I hope it's not going to be as bad as I think it will be. I really hope it's not going to be as bad as I think it will be. But Labour Party should understand all eyes are on the Labour Party, people. We're watching. We won't forgive and we won't forget. Guys, let me know down here in the comment section what you think about that. Was Carol Vorderman correct in her assessment? Was she correct in her assessment of saying Labour have started really, really badly in how they're going to run this country? They've alienated a huge swathe of the population, and I don't think things are going to get any better. Let me know down here in the comment section. Maybe we've got it twisted. Maybe Labour have done the right thing, but it's up to you guys. Let me know down here in the comment section. But make sure you look after yourselves, you look after each other, and please make sure you come back to the next Urban Bars reaction, guys. I'm out.